I had a huge, big boy, I don't like that, big brain IQ play, and I want to talk to you about it. Hey, Nick from 9card TCG, and today I went to a league, my first ever league challenge over the weekend, and I placed 5th out of 38th, and while it's not the greatest result in the history of the world, it was still pretty good. I'm still satisfied with it. I think for the most part, I could have won all 6 games. I think I had a really good, at least all the 6 games I played, I think I had a pretty good opportunity to win them. Doesn't always go that way. There's RNG, you misplay, you make a bad read, whatever, things happen. So, 5th out of 38, not bad. But I want to talk about a particular play that I made that I do really think won me a game. I'll talk about all the other games as well, but I really want to highlight a specific play, and we'll get to it. But before we do, if you haven't already, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, all kind of stuff. Those YouTube, that's a good channel. People should watch it. Okay, cool. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead, talk about this league challenge, and just get into it. I should talk first, what is even a league challenge? League challenges are probably one of, if not the lowest tier of competitive play that Pokemon events have to offer. It's purely Swiss rounds, meaning you play people of the same or very close to the same record as you. The number of rounds you play are dependent on the number of people that show up. So we had, in the Masters division, 38 people. That was 6 rounds. And there is no top cut in league challenges. It's just the person who has the best record. And if you're tied on record, you go to resistance. What is resistance? Basically, it's a measure of how well your opponents did. So your opponent's win percentage is calculated, and we call that resistance. And basically, that's used as a tiebreaker because what it tells you is, did you play really good opponents? Like if you have a very high opponent win percentage, it means you played people who had a lot of wins, which means you beat good players in theory, right? That's how it's supposed to work. And if you have a lower resistance, it means you played people who didn't win as much, and you might have had a little bit of an easier time. It happens, right? That kind of stuff is a factor. So league challenges, official Pokemon tournaments, Swiss rounds only, no top cut, and they're just a fun way to get out for the afternoon and enjoy some Pokemon. Now we'll talk about the actual event. It should not be a surprise that I played Lugia Single Strike Urshifu. It's just a deck that I feel really comfortable with. It's a deck that I really like to play. So Lugia Single Strike Urshifu is the deck I played. Yes, there is Tyranitar in there. We got the Lumineon, although at the time I was actually only playing one Lumineon. This is a slightly updated version. So, yeah, that's the list that I was playing. And round number 1, I gotta look and see. I don't even remember what I played. So round number 1, I played Lost Zone Giratina, and I got a little lucky. Turn 1, they only benched one Giratina, so something like a Lugia VSTAR is really able to KO it. Tyranitar, really easy to KO something like a Giratina V. Even a VSTAR, Tyranitar can deal with pretty easily. And you do have like your Archeops, single prize attackers. The Tyranitar is actually pretty good into Lost Zone decks because Cragalanche is going to be able to one-shot Comfeys. It's going to be able to one-shot Sableye. You get enough single-strike energies on there. You're one-shotting Cramorants, all that kind of stuff. So you can use these Pokemon pretty effectively. And Cragalanche has the extra effect of discarding the top card, the top 2 cards actually, from your opponent's deck. So you kind of limit their resources even more, which is really nice. So that was round 1. Won that game. I should mention a lot of times, it's not always, but the league challenges can be a best of 1, and that's what this tournament was. It was a best of 1. So round 2 played against Arceus Giratina, and that was very easy because I had the Lugia and I had the Urshifu, which just really let me do whatever I wanted. I used the Lugia to KO an Arceus V. They, I think, knocked out the Lugia. I go ahead, I beat down, KO another Arceus V-Star, and then G-Max one below Giratina V-Star, and that was the game. It was, from my point of view, that game was super, super easy. So round number 3, I was playing against a Lost Zone box deck, like the new Lost Zone Turbo type deck, and this was what I had. I had 2 Lugia Vs, one on the active, one on the bench. I had the 2 V-Stars in hand, and I had a Lumineon in hand. And this was, I think, a really pivotal play against a deck like Lost Box. My opponent had used Cramorant. I went first. I got my Lugias in play. This was basically my hand. This was enough, right? This is all you need to know about the play. And so my opponent goes, they use Spit Innocently to put 111 or 110 damage. 111 is not a number. 110 damage onto my active Lugia V. And the reason that this is so important is because a second Cramorant Spit Innocently would KO this. Snorlax is able to come in and KO this. They were running Radiant Greninja, so I didn't have to worry about the Charizard. But there's a lot of ways that they can deal with this Lugia, even if I evolve into the V-Star with 110 damage on it. So what I did was I played the Lumineon, searched the deck for a Professor Burnet, played the Professor Burnet, and it was to get 2 Archeops into the discard. Once I got the 2 Archeops in the discard, I was then able to start really setting up my play. And what I did was I evolved the bench, I used Summoning Star to get these 2 Archeops into play. Then I used the first Primal Turbo to go ahead and search for a Regenerative Energy. I also searched for some other energies. Let's just pretend I searched, all my energies in the back because this is sorted now. I searched for like a Gift and a Double Turbo. I don't know. Let's just pretend that's what I searched for. So I get these energies onto my Lugia. Because I have this Regenerative Energy, what it says is when I play the Lugia V-Star from my hand to evolve the Lugia V, I heal 100 damage, leaving me with just 10 damage off of that Spit Innocently. If I had done this in some other combo, before I use these Primal Turbos, I go ahead and I evolve, and then I Primal Turbo, and I get those energies, I don't heal. I keep that 110 damage, which I don't really want to do. Why would I want to keep the damage if I can get rid of it? So by not getting over excited and saying, oh, I can evolve Summoning Star, and get this one on the bench, get these energies, start attack, took a second, thought about it, said, I bet I have Regenerative Energy in the deck. And even if I didn't, even if the one of Regenerative Energy was prized, even if it was prized, this play doesn't hurt me. I have the second Lugia V-Star in the hand. It doesn't matter what order I do it, as long as if I'm trying to get the heal, that is. So waiting to evolve this Lugia V doesn't do anything. If I looked through this and I said, oh man, my Regenerative Energy is prized, okay, I mean, it would have been a cool play to make, but it wouldn't have hurt me to do it this way. But if I immediately went and evolved and said, okay, Summoning Star, Primal Turbos, I would have lost out on healing a lot of damage. And I really do think that this play won me the game. And now, maybe, just maybe, this isn't a crazy high-level IQ play for you. Maybe you're, I don't know, I'm not that good. So for me, this is a really cool play. I was glad I saw the line. And the math really does matter. It might not stop you from getting KO'd against a Raikou, but it could stop you getting KO'd against something like a Snorlax or some of the other crazy stuff that Lost Zone decks are playing. Dragonite now I think does 250. So now with only 1 damage counter, now it's only doing, it's not KOing. Even if it does 260, it's still short of the KO. They'd have to get an extra damage counter or 2 on this thing, or find their one of choice belt, something like that. And then I would be able to use something like Tyranitar to come in and then one-shot their Dragonite if they don't KO the Lugia. And that's not exactly what happened. Eventually, later in the game, they did go ahead and play the Raikou, and I was able to use the Tyranitar or the Lugia, whatever it was, to KO their 1-2 prize Pokemon and get my last 2 prizes and win the game. So, why am I even going over this? Why am I even telling you about this line? It's because this is a product of 100% of knowing your deck. I knew that I had a regenerative energy in this deck, and I know what it does. And because I've played this deck so much, I know the list inside. I mean, I made some changes, so I don't want to say I knew the list inside and out, but for the most part, I knew 95% of this deck, and I know what all the cards in it do. So while this might not have been the best version of Lugia Single Strike, because I do run a 2-2 Urshifu line, right? It might not be the best version of it, but I know it really well. And by virtue of knowing the deck really well, I'm able to see and make plays that someone who just picks up a deck because it's doing really well, they might not be able to. So something to keep in mind there is that, yeah, sure, you might not play the objectively best deck in the format, but if you play what's best for you, then you will perform better because you know it. You know it really well. You're comfortable with it. You like it. You're likely to do better. And I am a personal a statement for that. I took a deck very similar to this to Knoxville and made day 2 when I had no business of doing it because I just knew the deck really well. I won some very close games. My very next game was against a really good Gardevoir list. I think it was, if not the same exact 60 as Tords, it was really, really close. And that's a strong deck. And my opponent played it super well. If I didn't win that turn, my opponent was going to win. It was one of those situations that I needed to win that turn. Otherwise, I would have lost. And I was able to do it. But man, it was super close. I did lose the next 2 games. The next game after that, I played a Lugia Single Strike Mirror, and it was one of those things that we were both just really setting up. I actually prized 2 of my Lugias and one of Professor Burnet. It was a very unfortunate situation as far as what I had prized and what I tried to set up, because I really do think a little bit of a better setup could have won me that game. But that came down to us attacking with our Tyranitars. I wanted to attack with the Lugia VSTAR, knock out their Lugia V, then they come in, knock out the Lugia VSTAR with Tyranitar, or Single Strike Urshifu. The V can come in, knock out their Tyranitar. Now I'm down to 2 prizes remaining because I knocked out the Lugia V and the Tyranitar V. They knock out my Urshifu with their other Tyranitar, or their Lugia VSTAR, and then Tyranitar comes in and takes the last 2 prizes, knocking out their Tyranitar or Lugia VSTAR. We just kind of go back and forth, trading those prizes, knocking out Urshifu, Tyranitar, or Lugia, right? Whichever one you're able to. You boss up or Serena up a Lumineon V on the bench, something like that. Get your last 2 very easy prizes. If I couldn't get the 4 energies to use Single Strike Crush, maybe I can go ahead and use my second copy of Urshifu, boss up Lumineon, and then boom, there you go. There's an easy KO on something like that. Get the final 2 prizes. So that's kind of how the game how I wanted it to go. But because I couldn't set up, I ended up attacking with the Tyranitar first. So I knocked out their Lugia V with Tyranitar, and then their Tyranitar came in, knocked out my Tyranitar. My second Tyranitar knocked out theirs, and then they used their second Tyranitar to knock out mine. And from there, I just didn't have a way to deal with, their second Tyranitar, because even though Single Strike Urshifu can do it, when I used Single Strike Crush, I ended up milling. This deck runs 3 Urn of Vitalities. I already discarded 1 early game, and then I used Single Strike Crush and discarded the other 2. 2 of my 4 cards discarded were Urn of Vitality. And that if I had just 1 of them, I could have recycled the Single Strike energies needed to get Urshifu to do enough damage to KO their Tyranitar V. But it does have 230 health, so I would need a couple of Single Strike energies. And by getting rid of all 3 of my urns, thanks to that 1 really unfortunate Single Strike Crush, I just wasn't able to pull it off. And then the last game was a Miraidon deck. I just bricked really hard. I couldn't find a Lugia turn 1. I don't even know if I found one turn 2. Maybe I found a turn 2, but it was just too late. Couldn't get set up against the Miraidon deck whatsoever, and they popped off real hard. They had everything you could have possibly wanted. So it happens sometimes. You get a little unlucky here and there, and it leads to a game loss. But either way, like I said, I will still take a 4-2 record and top 5 or 5th out of 38. I hope you enjoyed this video. If nothing else, it just kind of gives you the confirmation or the affirmation that you might have needed to play the deck, to play the thing you love. And there's a difference between playing a good deck that you know really well but might not be the best versus just a really bad meme deck that you enjoy playing but has no competitive viability. Those aren't the same. Ultimately, play whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, found it informative. If you did, help your boy out, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you next time.